Hi.
Hello.
Ooh.
Hello.
Kirrah's here. Kirrah's in the building.
Semi. Sort of.
Kind of present.
Mentally.
Kind of not.
Not physically.
In it, but not winning it.
Ha ha ha.
Okay, welcome to episode 17 of I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God. We got 3 more episodes
That's
left
my
after
favorite
this
number.
one. What, 17?
17 is my favorite number. It used to be my nickname.
What?
That was another life.
Okay.
Don't talk about it.
Episode 17. Today we're going to talk about, Kirrah doesn't know what we're talking about, so it's great again.
I never do.
It's always fantastic when she doesn't know.
Always. Never not know.
So today we're going to talk about the Damsel of Death, Miss Aileen Wuornos.
Yay.
Okay. She has no fucking idea who that is.
I'm just scratching a mosquito bite. I got nothing.
Shit. Okay, I'll explain. Now, I first learned of Aileen Wuornos in high school when the movie Monster came out, starring Charlize Theron. It was like, 2003. She was very good in this movie. And after I found out about Aileen, I was absolutely fascinated with her. I later watched Nick Broomfield's documentary, and slowly but surely she became a bit more like popular and shit nationally. So that is how I kind of got into Aileen Wuornos. She's very interesting. She is actually, at the time, they kept calling her the first American female serial killer. Not true. But she is the second woman to be executed in Florida. So we'll get to that point.
She's from Florida.
She is from a few places, so not really from Florida, but we'll get to that. The poison on this episode is the man killer. Courtesy, this was a listener request, Miss Tara Lisa, who she ran into my Eminem video on TikTok. Like kind of went viral. She ran into that video, found out I had a podcast, and she listened to every episode. And she messaged me the other day, and I told her, I kind of released it on TikTok already, what episode I was doing. And then she was like, you should do the cocktail man killer. And I was like, no idea what that is, but cool. It goes with the theme. But if you want to drink with me, it's gin or vodka. Apricot brandy, Galliano, strawberry syrup, orange juice, and passion fruit, which I will never drink this cocktail, Tara. I just want to throw that out there. It's too many sugars, too many juices, too much shit in it. I don't even know what Galliano is. And what's crazy is it's not even the fact that it has apricot brandy in it, because that sounds fun. I do love an Aperol, which is an apricot liqueur. But I was like, a man killer? Or is this a headache?
Wait, repeat those ingredients.
Apricot brandy, gin or vodka.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Lights and darks.
Not both, though. Well, gin and vodka are light.
But you said apricot brandy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right.
Brandy. Yeah.
Galliano is actually an Italian herbal aperitivo, it seems, from Italy. Is it an aperitivo?
What flavor is that?
It just says herbal, which when I see herbal, I think absinthe, but people also search for chartreuse. So it must have a little bit of something in it to kind of.
So it's not super sweet.
Yeah, which I think you would ultimately need with all these different juices in it. There's strawberry syrup, which, what the fuck?
I'm not
Orange
mad at
juice.
It. Okay.
And passion fruit juice. So it may not be bad.
I think there are ways that you would have to Whole Foods this down.
Oh, here we go, Kirrah.
The
flavor profile is vanilla herbs. Vanilla and herbs is the flavor profile.
That helps the brandy though.
Yeah.
That may actually not be
That
bad.
may be fire now that I know what Galliano is.
I think you can't use syrup.
Yeah.
I think you have to use actual fruit.
Yeah, I would agree.
Or substitute
I wouldn't use
orange
juice.
Yeah, I would maybe substitute the orange maybe for grapefruit.
No, that changes the cocktail. I would probably use orange juice, but I would probably just muddle passion fruit.
Yeah.
And maybe
the cherry too. I would just muddle
Wait,
cherry.
what cherry?
Didn't you say cherry liqueur?
Strawberry syrup.
Oh.
So I would probably muddle apricot brandy.
Oh, okay. So strawberry. Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, so I would probably muddle strawberries and passion fruit.
Yeah.
And then use apricot brandy, gin, because that's my favorite, Galliano, and orange juice. But now that I know what this Galliano is, a bitch is gonna buy some this weekend because vanilla.
I was gonna say, I'm actually
intrigued.
Not too mad at the recipe if you switch some stuff around from the juice.
Yeah, because when I see juices a lot in recipes, I get scared because that means I'm gonna be hung the fuck all the way over if it's delicious.
I think some of that shit, like I said, you're gonna have to use the sparkling water.
Period.
Like, we're gonna have to take it back to the Flintstones.
You may have to top it off with a little bit of club soda.
A little mineral water, something.
So anyway, you add all those ingredients in a shaker with some ice and you drink that shit in a highball glass and you got yourself a motherfucking man killer.
Well, that's why they call it a man killer.
Yeah.
Because it's sweet as fuck.
Because it kills men.
And man as in men is gender neutral.
Exactly. But thank you, Tara. I really appreciate it.
We did not tear that apart.
We didn't tear that apart. That was a terrible dad joke. Now, I read The Damsel of Death by Gisela K. Links always in the show notes. And I watched Aileen, Life and Death of a Serial Killer by Nick Broomfield. Nick Broomfield was actually the documentarian that did the Tales of the Grim Sleeper, which I also did an episode on last season. So if you want to dabble into, I mean, goddamn, janitor.
Sorry. I'm just trying to get my lip gloss.
Picked up 42,000 fucking keys. Okay. So that's who we're going to talk about, and that's what we're drinking, except that's not what we're drinking at all.
I'm drinking wine.
I didn't make that because I didn't get any of those ingredients because this was very last minute per fucking usual. I have executives in town. I dropped my mom off at the airport. I was just doing a lot, and by the graces of fucking God, I was able to get this episode done. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna try to do this in a timely manner because my child is at day camp, and by child I mean Luna. Okay, so we're good. Sip.
Great. Great.
All right. Kirrah's back.
I can only do wine though, guys.
Yeah, she only fucking with wine. She ain't fucking with the hard shit. She had a moment.
I had a boo-boo.
Yeah.
So I'm on punishment.
Me and Sal went to La Grande Boucherie and I had 2 Aperols, 3 La Vie en Roses, which is like their kind of like almost like a strawberry martini a little bit with roses in it. It was beautiful. Then I decided, fuck it, 2 Corpse Survivors too. If you know what a Corpse Survivor is, it has absinthe in it. That's all you need to know. And then I got drunk and there was a legless lady there with her mom celebrating her birthday and me and they do the traditional absinthe ceremony. So I requested the absinthe fountain. The ritual that is. She
only had one leg because she came.
She had 2. She lost both.
That's sad.
Yeah, that was terrible. I didn't even ask, but I wanted her to enjoy her birthday. I asked if she wanted some absinthe. She was like, it tastes like licorice. I was like, cool, I'll keep my money. But what I did was I ordered 2 doses of fucking absinthe. On top of that, we were sitting at La Grande Boucherie for 6.5 fucking hours.
I still would have been now.
I got home. I was so fucked up. First of all, Mama was here. She hates when I'm drunk. Walk in as sober as humanly possible, collapse. Then I realized that I had to vomit. Get to the bathroom, throw up in a bowl, then throw up in the tub. You're probably like, Brittany, why do you have a bowl in the bathroom? Because I stopped washing my face with regular water. I started washing it with...
I get that.
Yeah, I started boiling it.
You're supposed to.
So... But I happened to be on the toilet. So then I like grabbed the bowl and threw up in the bowl. And then I realized I passed out and then I threw up in the tub.
So you can't use that bowl no more, huh? Or do you think that because you boil the water, it's okay?
I put it in
Can you put that in the dishwasher?
I put it in the dishwasher on high temp.
It's your house.
You know, and I just let it ride. And then, so I threw up, kept throwing up. Then I woke, now mind you, this was a fucking Sunday.
Done it.
Monday was my first day back in the office.
It would have been my 0 day. I would have been like, I see y'all Thursday.
So woke up that morning, hungover as fuck. Workout wasn't gonna happen. Of course, Luna needed to go out, but I had vertigo. I couldn't stand up straight without feeling like I was gonna vomit all over the floor.
Not the soft definition.
My equilibrium was fucked.
Not the soft definition.
Like, oh, and you're probably wondering, well, Brittany, what did you eat? 6 hours at La Grande Boucherie. What did you eat?
Egg.
I had steak and eggs at noon. I didn't leave that fucking restaurant until 7 o'clock. And that was the only thing I had to eat.
Also, let's go back to like drinking basics 101, where if you're sitting, all the liquor is going to hit your feet the minute you stand up. And by then you were already doing somersaults and cartwheels.
Facts. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't until I got in the bed when I passed out that I was like, oh, shit. Because, at that point you get the spins. Yeah. And once you get the spins, the world was spinning. The top lip started to sweat. And at that point, I was like, cool, I'm about to die. I was pretty sure I was going to have to be hospitalized. But then I woke up Monday, had to go to work, threw up 2 to 3 more times. Now, needing to take Luna out is what really fucked me up because the standing up part. But I knew I had to get through that because I had to go to work. So I was standing up, I was outside, and you know how you kind of bend over a little bit because you feel like if you stand up completely, you may either throw up or shit your pants or a combination between the two. So then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm really fucked up and I'm just going to have to prepare to throw up outside. And then I didn't. Thank God, made it back upstairs. But once I got back upstairs, I was like, it's about to happen and I feel it's about to happen. So I just kind of just bent over the toilet because my trick is to just smell the toilet.
It works.
It works.
Sometimes if you bend over and smell the toilet, just so your face is close enough to the point where you're like, oh, bitch, I'm grossed out because my face is this close to the toilet.
I hate that.
But then also you're like, oh, I can smell the toilet. Also knowing that my face is this close. You kind of just gross yourself out and then you poke your tongue back a little bit. Yeah. And then boom.
Yeah. And then before you know it, you're like, well, yep, there it is. Because, you start to smell the plumbing. That's what it is.
And you're like,
smell,
bitch, you down bad.
You're like, wow,
smell plumbing?
It's Monday. You got to go to work.
You rather smell plumbing?
Yeah. I was praising the porcelain god.
And this message is brought to you by white vinegar. That if you get some white vinegar and dab the vomit on your Adidas.
What?
If you ever throw up on your Adidas and you get some throw up on the suede, I know I'm an expert. If you get some vinegar, even if you wait until 3 weeks after because you're too full of shame.
Yeah.
If you wait 3 weeks after, it still comes out. The laces too.
Oh,
and
facts.
I just put them in the sun for an hour.
Oh,
and a
damn.
half.
So you kind of get the bacteria out. Okay.
I was going to just throw them out. And then I was like, bitch, hold up.
Negative.
I don't got that much shame.
It ain't never that serious.
I don't got that much shame.
It ain't ever going to be that serious.
You can get vinegar to throw up out of suede.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Also use your own saliva to get blood out of fabric.
Okay. First of all, relax. Second,
I'm just letting the girls know.
Yeah, I think we all needed to know that. I don't even think the girls just needed to know that. I think the boys could use that information
Everyone.
too.
Everyone.
Mm-hmm. So cheers to that. Sip. And with that being said, I didn't drink the next day, obviously. I did work out, though. So I was able to muster up enough electrolytes to, do some activity because I just felt like my body needed it. And, me and Mama went to the Gauge down on Michigan Avenue.
And I never heard the end of that because she said Brittany came in here and she just...
she
must have just been out of it.
And that's fucked up. That's funny too, because she when I talked to her, when I finally told her that I was fucked up, she was like, really? I'm like you didn't know. You had already been talking about me.
That was the next day when I spoke to her about that. She said she must have been fucked up.
I was fucked up.
She just went in here and went to sleep.
Well, she may not, you know what? She may not have been lying though. She may not have known I threw up. Because Sal always fucking gets at me. Sal finds it fascinating how fascinating it is, how gangsta I am when I have to vomit. Because one time I was at Sal's house and we got, it's same shit. It's always with Sal. We got fucked up and I was like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, knowing that I had to vomit. I was at his apartment too, so I was like, I'm gonna play this cool because I'm not trying to throw up on his shit either.
Yeah.
And so I went to the bathroom and I threw up and I just came back normal as fuck. And he didn't know until the next day. Because I was like, yeah, oh my God, because I threw up last night. And he was like, when did you throw up? I think people expect you to be belligerent.
Usually panic. I don't panic
because it's what I want to do.
I need this to happen, but also I don't be wanting everybody in my business. Like the night I got fucked up, I was in blind and I was taking tequila shots. Ugh. Don't ask me why.
Negative.
But I rode the boat, literally. She poured shot down my throat. And 3 minutes later, I get stood up and she said, "Where you going?" I said, "I gotta go to the bathroom." She goes, "You gotta throw up." And I went,
we'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then I went into the bathroom and I couldn't focus because bitches was too loud.
Yeah,
and I was
always
like,
in
wow.
blind.
I
Always
was like,
in blind.
I can't throw up in here.
Yeah.
So then I went outside. And
then you made it happen, Captain.
And then we made it happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great. Except there was so many strangers in the corner. And they were like, "Where are your friends?" And I was like, oh my God, they're inside a blind barber. Like, I came out here for privacy. Just please.
First of all, you don't know what Blind Barber is. Blind Barber is literally in the middle of Fulton Market. There is you would have to be in the back alley to have
but
any privacy.
But the fact that I still felt more privacy on this well-lit street lamp
than the bathroom.
Than the dark abyss of Blind Barber bathroom.
That's wild.
I was like, oh, perfect. A street lamp. Look at this.
No, ain't no way. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, usually if I can get that one out,
oh no,
I'm decent. Like,
I was down to the point where I left my car at my friend's house because I ain't drive.
Damn.
My boyfriend had to go get it the next day because I took it. She sent me home in an Uber. I did wash my face though. I did not go to sleep with makeup on because I don't give a fuck how drunk I am.
Yeah,
I'm not falling asleep with makeup on.
Facts.
I cannot get my sheets dirty.
Which
I can also not risk the pimples.
Which is funny that you said that. I mean, that night I washed my face with tap water. But, like, low key, I washed my fucking face.
I don't give a fuck.
I'm washing my face.
And I'm not falling asleep fully drunk
I
either.
would wash my face before I actually get in the shower. See, the shower probably would have saved me a little bit.
The water will save you.
It would have saved, but
That's if you can stand up.
I couldn't stand up. I mean, I had already passed out on the toilet.
Usually, I've realized that majority of the time, if I lay down and go to sleep and then I wake up,
I'm going to throw up.
Yeah,
facts.
But my problem is, I don't just throw up once. I have 12 hours of nonstop horror where I can't keep anything down. And I'm literally, my boyfriend's carrying me to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's facts.
And then he's like, I'm like, Pedialyte. Because I can't speak. Because my throat's swollen.
Yeah.
And that's why for about 3 weeks to a month, I stopped drinking hard liquor.
Yeah, facts.
But I can tell you what, skinny fucking legend by Tuesday.
All right.
I was down at least 7 to 10 pounds, girls.
Yeah.
If you need
health tips.
I'm just saying. I got on the scale and I said, bitch, hold up.
I mean, but that's the thing. Yeah, well, we would call that bulimia, but it
was great.
Okay.
My
well,
jeans.
I just feel like it's one of those things.
I did have to get rid of my tickets to Everyday People, though.
Okay.
Because I didn't make it.
So welcome. Welcome to episode 17. Walter had me cracking the fuck up. My granddad had me cracking the fuck up.
Walter is funny.
He is funny as fuck. This mama wasn't drinking. I brought him 2 bottles of Hennessy White. I brought him some the first time and the last time. He was so anti Hennessy White, and then was like, I was like, do you, I was gonna take it back home. He was like, I said, do you want to try it? He's like, sure. Not my thing. I drink Martell. And I'm like, not the same, but okay. He old though. So then he so then he finally tried the Hennessy White and then was like, so when are you bringing my bottle? I said, this is your bottle. You drank it. So then Mama's not drinking, of course. Van is not drinking. And then, Van did actually have a sip.
Van not drinking?
Van did have a sip.
Okay.
And then Walter goes, looking at Mama, he goes, I'm so happy my daddy ain't alive to see a Perkins drinking water. And at that moment, I was like, I fuck with you. Not only that, I'd also learned that we are the descendants of bootleggers on both sides, Granny and him. Whiskey bootleggers.
Then why ain't getting no PPP loan?
Okay, cool. Episode 17, y'all. We're going to talk about Aileen Wuornos.
I got questions.
None of these questions I can answer.
I got questions. When you say bootlegger.
Whiskey in the early 20th century.
But what
Muscle
about
shows.
now? What about today?
Well, no.
What about Southside, Woodline?
No.
I know you said Muscle Shoals, but Woodline.
Nope.
In Chicago, even West Loop. Bronzeville is not all that
There's not
far.
a lot of bootlegging happening in the 21st century.
I got a library card if need be.
All right, so you want to talk about Aileen? Let's talk about Aileen. You're about to learn a lot. Let's get into it.
Can't wait.
Was waiting all day for this shit. All right, so Aileen, this is fucked up. I just want, and I say that every episode because I like to make it very clear that this is not going to be pleasant. It is one of those things, if I had to equate it to any other episode that I've ever done, I would say like a little mixture of Duct Tape Killer, you know. Okay, short answer, white trash as fuck.
Joe Dirt.
Like
my fave kind of nonsense.
Like white trash as fuck.
I love it.
Aileen was wrecked.
Let's fucking get it. Every time I meet an Aileen.
What? Aileen is a giveaway. The name Aileen is a little bit of a giveaway.
They don't.
Yeah.
That elevator don't go all the way up.
Yeah, no. Oh, this elevator stopped at like level 2. Yeah, for sure. All right, so Aileen. So Aileen Kirrah Wuornos was born February 29th, 1956. What?
In Aquarius.
Is that what? Why do you know that so quickly? In Rochester, Michigan, to Diane Wuornos and Leo Pittman. Now, Diane Wuornos was born in Detroit, Michigan, on August 12th, 1939. Fucking Leo.
Have been to Detroit?
And she was the child of Finnish immigrants. Excuse me.
A what?
Finnish.
Oh.
Finland.
Okay.
At 13, Diane met Leo Pittman, who was 17. All right. There's a 4-year age gap here. Now, he made her stay at home while he worked. He worked odd jobs, and he also committed a lot of fucking crimes.
Okay.
Okay. Eventually, they eloped. And that was after she got pregnant because, duh. Okay. That's just in the 40s and 50s. That's how motherfuckers move. Now, this was when Diane was 14 and Leo was 18. They gave birth to Keith Edward Pittman on March 14th, 1955. That's the Aries, right?
What?
March 14th.
Yes.
Just 2 months later.
Or is that Pisces?
Who knows? Whatever. It doesn't really fucking matter. They would get pregnant again. And on February 19th, Aileen was born. Ugh. Now, 2 months prior to her birth, Leo shipped off to the army. Now, this wasn't just like, ooh, I'm going to go serve my country. This was in lieu of jail time for car theft. Because apparently that was a thing. Like, motherfucker, either you going to go to jail or you going to go to the army. Which is, I'm like, we should be doing that shit now. The army is prison. Basically. Got it. It's definitely punishment. Uh-huh. Now, by February of 1956, Diane filed for divorce right before Aileen was born. Diane couldn't handle taking care of kids without an income, so she ditched them and left them with her cousin. By 4 and 5, Aileen and Keith were adopted by Diane's parents, and Diane went off to re-fucking marry and have 2 other kids.
Not a hard reset.
Just a hard fucking reverting to original. Matter of fact, this is what I want to do instead.
I feel that, actually.
Now, Aileen didn't know her grandparents weren't her parents until she was 7. Leo, her granddad, Diane's dad, Aileen's dad, was born in Detroit on March 16, 1936, and was an only child of German descent. Now, Leo's life was like, his parents were divorced. His mother remarried and had another child as well. So he was also abandoned, it seems. Leo had some different issues because he was suffering from schizophrenia.
Oh, God. Wait,
Yep.
What year is this?
This 1936.
Oh, shit. That's just the year schizophrenia was going crazy.
Yeah, but they didn't diagnose him as schizophrenic until he was in his late 20s. He was admitted to a state hospital in Kansas, but he escaped. And he was readmitted to one in Michigan. So I'm assuming he escaped to Michigan. By 1967, Leo would get into serious trouble when he raped and sodomized an 8-year-old boy.
At what age, though? What age was he?
He was in his 20s. 1967. He was born in 36, which means he was 31. Leo, now, the courts gave him life in prison, which, damn.
It's strict, but necessary.
Totally.
It's provocative and gets the people going.
It gets the people going. And then on January 30th, 1969, Leo was found hanging in his cell.
Period.
He was 32. He killed himself.
Take yourself out there.
Yeah, he did. He took himself out the equation.
Schizophrenia is a bitch, bro.
It is.
And you know, like, they truly did not recognize schizophrenia as schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were automatically like, okay, we're just going to hammer into your head because we can't figure out what the next step is. And if that works, then we'll just keep doing it whenever you have a psychotic breakdown.
Oh, facts. I mean, and you know, the bigger problem was just the fact that, you know, fucking mental illness in general was like so confusing. They were like, we don't know what the fuck. What do you mean you see people that aren't there?
Well, because
what do you mean you hear voices that aren't there?
Everyone was so worried about religion.
Yeah, facts.
One. And people were also worried about status.
Facts.
You and your family is well off, y'all in politics and shit. And all of a sudden, your son is seeing dead people or any type of person and or hearing voices and or raping his sibling.
He is now a demon.
He is now a demon.
Possessed.
No one knows why, so you throw him in the hospital.
Yeah.
But it's only amongst men.
And unfortunately, too, you know, being amongst other crazy people, I can't imagine it being easy to heal from that. And because it's kind of like you all are feeding off of each other. It kind of reminds me of Girl Interrupted.
Yeah.
It's like, should I be isolated or should I be in this open air environment with all these other people with their issues? Because they kind of help me justify mine, right? They make it more solidified that whatever I'm experiencing is not uncommon. And that, you know, once you find a home in, you know, a mental institution, like you find this sense of belonging. Do you have a reason to fix yourself at that point?
Well, you also see that there's people that are worse than you.
Yeah, facts.
So you're like, okay, what I'm dealing with ain't shit.
Ain't shit in comparison. True.
Yeah.
Now, excuse me. Now, living with her grandparents, Aileen, living with her grandparents seemed a bit better than living with her two parents anyway. They had two other children, Diane's siblings, Barry and Lori. Aileen was close with her grandmother. Her name was Britta, like the picture. Her name was actually Aileen, but it's easy. They called her Britta, which was her middle name. Oh. Now she's like, what? She was strict, like most women of that generation, and she made a home for her that was worth living. Now,
she was a junior?
Huh?
Well, no, because her mom wasn't named
her mom was named Diane, but her mom named her after her grandmother. Oh. Now, Lori, you heard the name Lori already. Lori is the granddad. Like Lauren, Lauri. Lori, excuse me, her husband, Britta's husband, was doing okay career-wise. Lori had been an engineer for Ford and Chrysler.
Cute.
He did some janitor work.
What?
As well, but eventually settled into quality assurance managing. So he was okay. And when Lori found out that about Diane's relationship with Leo, he was fucking furious. He didn't like the quote criminal types. So when the kids arrived, he kind of resented the idea of taking them in. Aileen found Lori cold. They were not allowed to call him dad. But Lori had his own issues. He had a drinking problem, like super fucking crazy. This was most likely from serving in the war during WW2. Now, Aileen would later say, quote, "My dad was a stringent, strict bastard. But other than that, he was all right. My dad was so straight and clean, he wouldn't even take his shirt off to mow the lawn. He did not believe in cursing, long hair, or miniskirts. I came from a real clean and decent family." The two other children, Aileen believed were her brother and sister, were actually her uncle and aunt. Barry was 12 when Aileen and Keith arrived, and Lori was 4 or 5. So she was about Eileen's age. Now, there was allegedly some sexual abuse by her uncle brother, Barry, because he was her uncle, but she thought it was her brother.
I'm like,
but it's hard to tell because as we go, you'll start to see that Aileen, she's schizophrenic, possibly, but Aileen is also kind of a liar. So both Barry and Lori, the sister, said the household was normal and did not witness any abuse from their father on Aileen. They just got normal spankings. They were like, it's just like any other kid who's being reprimanded for doing some shit. Now, Lori and Barry did not like the new kids. He didn't like Aileen, and they didn't like Aileen, and they didn't like fucking Keith. And there's significant age gap between Barry and Keith and Aileen. Like Barry was 12 when they got there. So there's like a 7-year age gap between them. Quote, once Aileen was in Volusia County Branch Jail after being arrested, she called Lori, who said to her. This was an excerpt from Aileen in her own words. When you get the chair, I wish I could pull the switch.
Ooh.
What a bitch.
Now.
That rhymed. Now, there were sources that claimed that Aileen had been beaten and sexually assaulted by her grandfather. But again, she would later say this was not true. What was true was by the time Aileen was 11, she was already engaging in sex acts with boys at school in exchange for cigarettes, food, and drugs.
She had to have been molested somewhere.
Thank you. By 14, Aileen would become pregnant after being raped by one of Lori's acquaintances, Lori, her granddad. Lori was fucking furious. Later, Eileen's friend would confirm this, quote, the guy that raped her was like 60 years old and he loved all the kids. Aileen was drunk. He'd taken advantage of her and shit like that. So that's who she got pregnant by. He was a known pedophile who went by Chief.
Aileen was drunk?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a known pedophile that went by Chief and Potluck. This happened because his house was the only house she could go to and listen to music. And I guarantee that was the only fucking house she can get some fucking alcohol. How much you want to bet?
I'm like, she was drunk?
Yeah. She said, I'd hitchhike from home. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd hitchhike home from Clawson after sneaking out to a party at some 8 miles away. And this one would get me pregnant at 14. Low life scumball.
And this was her grandfather's friend.
Yep. Now, rumors were going around that her child that, she was pregnant by was actually her fucking brother's.
So her brother was molesting her too.
Well, okay, this gets a little complicated because they had been having sex with each other since they were 10 because they're only a year apart.
So
Keith and
there's
her
incest.
Possibly. Now, a friend witnessed them in a kids' hangout area in the neighborhood called the Pits and said it was nothing more than consensual foreplay. And when Aileen was asked about this later, she said that they were too afraid to go any further because they were told that brothers and sisters shouldn't have sex. Keith was constantly bullied for this, and Aileen would hold firm on the fact that while they were close, they did not go further than just playing house. So...
Okay.
But
they're so close in age. She could have easily been protected.
Sure. And that's what I was about to say. And you'll see later, too, they had a pretty strong relationship. By 15, Aileen would give birth to Keith, her son. She named her son after her brother.
Y'all got to open your mind when it comes to the names. Like, there's plenty.
There's so many fucking names.
There's so many you can choose from.
Now, her son she had was at a home for unwed mothers. And she had him in March of 1971. He was 7 pounds. Now, she wasn't even allowed to hold him. Her grandfather forced her to put him up for adoption. And immediately after that, she dropped out of school completely. It was a closed adoption, unfortunately. So she had no idea where her son ended up. But she would refer to him in the present tense, even when she talked about him. So when they asked her if she had a son, she would always say, yes, I have one child. And she wouldn't mention him in the past tense, which means she still held on to some level of connection as far as a mother is concerned, even though she actually never had an opportunity to be his mother.
Yikes.
Now, Aileen and her grandfather's relationship was becoming even more strained because Eileen's grandmother, Britta, was dying of liver failure. And
So
Lori,
she was an alcoholic too? Question mark?
no, and Lori was beginning to drink even more though. Like Lori was fucked up because, of course, men don't know how to take care of themselves when their wives die.
Men don't know
How to take care of themselves in general.
Men don't know how to really do anything.
So around this time, Aileen started running away. Because Lori, with his drinking, became more and more angry, and it was likely depression over the prospect of losing his wife, because he knew he was going to lose his wife. And once she ran away and was caught, but he had her sent to a juvenile facility. When she was finally released, he told the courts he did not fucking want her back.
It's strict out here. It's so strict.
What a fucking ass.
That was your friend in the first place that was also raping.
Thank you. She's like this because you all weren't you adopted her and didn't take care of her for real.
You are a war vet that has PTSD. You're an alcoholic, and this isn't even her mother, by the way.
No,
this is also just her grandmother.
This is her grandmother and grandfather.
So there's a lot of issues.
Few, yeah. Now he kicked Aileen and her brother out on the street. He just said, "Fuck both of y'all."
Brother, what I do? Am I in it?
Now Lori would eventually bet his home in a track race. Anyway, so Aileen and Keith would bounce around sleeping at friends' houses and on the fucking street.
Bet his home in a track race.
Then, in March of 1976, Lori would succumb to carbon monoxide poisoning in his son's garage. Likely suicide, but this can't be confirmed. Now, to survive, they hit the road. Aileen would live in the woods, and she began a life of prostitution, while Keith stayed at a friend's house, which I actually thought was pretty backwards, because usually people take in the girl and they leave the boy on the street.
I think she kind of wanted to do this.
I think it's because she was crazy, and I think it's because the neighborhood probably categorized her as a whore.
Yeah.
And people didn't want to take her in because she was sleeping around with all these different people.
I figure it's kind of easier for her to just go out and do what the fuck she wants to do, as opposed to being put through more trauma.
Yeah, facts. Now,
even though prostitution is traumatizing.
Facts. Now, Aileen would hitchhike back and forth. She would see Keith here and there, but they were separated. Now, by 18, Aileen would get arrested for driving under the influence, disorderly conduct, and she was firing off a .22 caliber rifle in a moving vehicle. This happened in Colorado. This girl made it all the way from fucking Michigan, basically, to Colorado.
Of course she did. She's a prostitute.
Now, Aileen, this was by the time she was 20. So, fast forward.
But this was still in the 70s,
This was still in the 70s.
Yeah, hitchhiking.
She met Louis Gratz Fell. He was 69, whom she married. The marriage was annulled 9 weeks later after she learned some pretty unsexy things about Louis, which was that he was a fucking pervert. She wanted no part of it, and she eventually beat him with his own cane. Mm-hmm. So naturally, he kicked her the fuck out. He's like, bitch, you gotta go. Hell no. You ain't about to.
That's what he get. Because, try somebody to fuck out.
Try somebody else, bitch.
Especially with you already on the cane. I beat your ass.
I would beat you. Look, how you gonna be 70 and argue with a 20-something-year-old girl? You gonna get fucked up. You lucky she didn't kill you. Okay, so at this point, she was expressing a lot of anger. I mean, she would consistently get arrested for her behavior. She would consistently get arrested for assault. That was her favorite, especially when she was drinking in bars, which makes sense because Aileen is mentally ill. Alcohol and mental illness do not mix well.
No.
They never have.
No.
Now, eventually, she would have to return home when she found out Keith was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. This bitch cannot catch a fucking break.
I wouldn't have come back home, to be honest.
This is a bad idea, but she bought him a flute as a gift, which he can't use because he got esophageal cancer. That's in the throat.
I was like the esophagus?
It's like, girl.
Like the watch?
Exactly. His neck was swollen as fuck. He couldn't even use his flute. Now, in letters, why?
He couldn't even use his flute.
Why? In letters to her friend Dawn, she expressed that he was trying to get her to stop hustling. So he made her a beneficiary on a $10,000 life insurance policy. And he was eventually transferred to Ann Arbor, July of 1976, where he died of cancer at 21 years old.
I'm sorry, babe, but $10,000 is not going to keep me off the stroll.
What? Now, here's the thing, though. Aileen collected the policy. She bought a car.
I'd buy some pleasers and get my ass back on the stroll.
What? But crashed the car a few weeks later. Mm-hmm. She was uncontrollable after Keith's death. She was the only family, he had, and he was the only family she had, and she was the only family he had. She had to figure out how to get it together, and she tried enrolling into police academy, but she didn't have a GED. She definitely didn't have a clean fucking record, and she didn't have the $3,000 to pay for it. So the only clear option was to stay on the street.
Why the police academy?
I know. I was like, y'all should be begging people to be in the force. Now, the resentment grew because She was living on the street. She was living in the woods. She was living in cars. She was hooking. And by 25, Aileen would be arrested again for robbing a convenience store in Edgewater, Florida. She only got 2 packs of cigarettes and $35.
Was it fucking worth it?
I mean, apparently. From 1982 to 1983, she was in prison. By 1984...
For robbing a store?
For robbing a fucking liquor... But it was armed, so...
But she only got $35.
It don't matter.
Squares.
It's armed. That's aggravated.
Okay.
By 1984, she was arrested for forging checks in Key West, Florida. And then in 1986, she got arrested in Miami for car theft, obstruction of justice, resisting arrest, and using an alias. And guess what the alias was? Lori Gordy, her aunt's sister name. She was trying to use her aunt's sister's fucking name. The cops found a revolver. And that same year, a report was filed against her stating that a man had been robbed by her. This went nowhere, but they found the gun. It was a .22 caliber gun. He claimed that she used, which was under his car seat when they searched his car. So they basically she pulled this gun out in your car on you.
Are you not embarrassed, you stupid
You should
bitch?
be embarrassed.
You telling people you got robbed by
I wouldn't have even admitted that shit. Right. Now that same year, Eileen's now 30. She meets Tyria.
I don't know how she lived this long.
Right. She meets Tyria Moore in a gay bar in Daytona. They would move in together. Wuornos supported them both. She would later say that she was bringing in $150 to $200 per day. She apparently didn't work. She didn't want Ty to work. She called her Ty. She didn't want Ty to work. Ty encouraged her to expand her client base beyond her regulars. Who she had been comfortable with for years, because Ty is like, okay, you don't want me to work. You out here on the stroll. You need to bring in some more money then, because you're not just supporting you no more. You supporting 2 of us. Now, she was pushing her to bring home $700 to $1,000 a week so they can afford a nice home and they can afford to go out. Now, they lived in cheap motels. They lived in mobile homes. Sometimes they had to sleep in barns or in the woods to get by. And Ty reminded Aileen that she could be taken care of by someone else if she moved on, which put extra pressure on Aileen.
And this so is now the 80s, I assume?
Roughly, yeah. Eileen's sex work was increasing.
A week? That's
a
lot of money.
And Eileen's sex work was starting to down spiral because she's getting older. You know, it's like, but she needed the money to bring home to impress Ty. And that was the only goal. Even though their romantic relationship supposedly faded, they stayed inseparable for about 4 years. And whenever Aileen got arrested for things like assault or driving with a suspended license, Ty usually got questioned too, because they were always together. Now, on March 12th, 1988, Wuornos accused a Daytona Beach bus driver of assault, claiming that he pushed her off the bus after a confrontation. She was constantly in fucking trouble. In July 1988, the Daytona Beach landlord accused him of vandalizing the property by painting walls brown and ripping out the carpets without his permission. Drink time. Now, after a fight at a Pasco County supermarket over lottery tickets in 1988, Wuornos, using a new alias, Susan Blahovic, made threatening phone calls to the supermarket for 6 days fucking straight. By 1989, Aileen was 33. She had started supplementing her income with prostitution from prostitution to just flat out fucking theft. And Ty probably knew about that shit. Now, Aileen said that she was mostly drunk while she was working, while her clients were mostly sober. She was using alcohol as a way to get through the sex. She claimed to have been having sex with up to 8 men a day.
Oh, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot of masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's a lot of negative energy to just be injecting into your body every day.
Not to mention, you don't even know them niggas.
No, you don't know none of them niggas. Now, on November 30th, 1989, Aileen shot someone. And
I'm sorry.
That's fucked up. And
she shot someone.
She shot someone. This murder will set the stage for other murders. Richard Mallory was 51-year-old electronics store owner from Clearwater, Florida. He picked up Aileen while she was hitchhiking along Interstate 75 Even though he had spent all his money on 2 strippers, he decided to pick up Aileen. So things didn't go well because he thought he can get what the fuck he wanted and he had no motherfucking money. He had already exchanged like for these strippers to fucking like do whatever the fuck they were doing to him by offering them like $600 in electronics. And they were like,
nigga,
okay.
What I'm finna do with an Xbox? They like, do I look like fucking GameStop?
He's like, look, I got Street Fighter
and a memory stick. Bitch, go somewhere else.
We about to beat the fuck out of you.
I'm finna fuck you up.
Now, according to her testimony, quote, he had brutally raped her after tying her hands to the steering wheel. He grabbed a Visine bottle filled with rubbing alcohol to clean the blood off his penis and then squirted it into her, which she said, quote, hurt like hell because she was all torn up. I'm saving your ass for the grand finale, she recalled him saying, and at that point she realized that she would have to fight for her life. Mallory exited the car and sat on the hood of his car smoking pot and listening to music for approximately 1 hour, leaving Aileen tied to the steering wheel, cold and in the nude. As she struggled to get free. In her trial, her defense attorney asked, were you saying anything to him at that point? Aileen answered, no, I was crying my brains out. Eventually, she managed to free her hands, so she got up and she spat in his face. He said, you're dead, bitch, before lunging towards her and getting back in the car. She grabbed her bag, got hold of her pistol, and shot at him 3 times, with 1 bullet piercing into his right arm and the other into his chest, left lung.
Irony. Because who's dead now, bitch?
Exactly. He crawled out of the car and onto the ground as she exited the car and moved towards him, shutting his door as she got to him and then shot at him twice more, which killed him. She explained, quote, then I thought to myself, well, this dirty bastard deserves to die anyway because of what he was trying to do to me. We struggled. I reached for my gun. I shot him. I scrambled to cover the shooting because I didn't think the police would believe I killed him in self-defense, end quote. Which we know that that's a problem in the prostitution game because, you know, there is this I look at this 2 ways. And to me, there's only 2 ways to see it. If you use the defense that she doesn't deserve to defend herself, if you use the excuse that she doesn't deserve to defend herself because she's a prostitute, I don't feel like you can say that he couldn't potentially deserve to get shot the fuck up if he tries to rape her, because that is also equally dangerous. You can't assume that just because she's a woman that you can overpower her. You can't assume just because she's a woman that she won't rob you, that she won't kill you in cold fucking blood for no reason.
Yeah, she did.
Because she did. And so to me, being a prostitute is dangerous and being a fucking trick is dangerous. You don't get to persecute the prostitute and not be like, oh, well then by the way, motherfucker, then being a trick is also dangerous. That's a dangerous game you playing. Yeah. You meeting all of these women who've been through shit on a daily basis and thinking that you can just chain them up or do whatever the fuck you want to and that they won't try to hurt you in the process.
They're not seen as people.
They're also not bags of meat.
That's what they see them as. Because if that were the case, if they didn't, then they wouldn't tie them up like this.
Thank you. Because you tied this woman up like a dog thinking, oh, here's this trash bitch who I want to get something from, but I can't afford to pay her for what the fuck she's offering me. So instead, I'm going to just take it. This woman deserves the right to blow your fucking head off. And so if the courts can use the excuse that, well, she's a prostitute, it's a dangerous game. To me, he's a John. It's a dangerous fucking game.
Yeah.
And I think they like to blame women too, because to me, in the background, what's running in the background is the fact that you know that men are inherently dangerous on the whole, that they can harm women. They can typically overpower them. They typically want to rape them.
And they will overpower them and they will rape them.
Exactly.
But the problem is, most of the people that are on the dais,
sure,
and or in the jury, wherever, they are also rapists.
Yeah.
Men are predators.
Yeah.
Not
by
to
nature.
say that all men are predators, but even the niggas that don't rape and they go out and they hunt deer,
yeah,
you're a predator.
You're a predator.
You like the hunting.
Yeah.
You don't see these people as people.
Yeah.
To you, you're a piece of pussy.
Yeah.
You went out there, you sold your ass for money. Okay, but you bought.
Mm-hmm.
So, transactional, I should be able to blow your fucking brains out because this is voiding the contract.
Yep.
As a prostitute, there is an unspoken contract.
Mm-hmm.
You sign up for this action.
Yep.
I did not sign up to be tied to your fucking steering wheel and raped.
I never said it was free.
I never said it was free.
Yep.
But because you're too fucking broke.
Yep.
And you don't want to pay the price, which how much could Aileen have been charged?
$40. She was $40 for a dick suck.
KFC chicken, bitch.
Yeah.
Like it could not have been much. And you telling me you can't afford $8.95 in a coupon?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you deserve to be fucking killed.
You're going to get blown the fuck away.
Blow your brains out. Because also you tried me with no money.
You tried me.
With
and
no
I think
money.
that's what it was too, because now here's what I will say. The situation with Aileen Wuornos is very interesting as well, because Aileen Wuornos is one of those people that for a minute, her argument of self-defense made sense. We need to keep women who are in sex work safe. Mm-hmm. With Aileen, there's also the mental illness component. So while Mallory, the first victim, may totally have been justified, the subsequent victims didn't really feel that way. And it started to just feel like she was taking out anger and she realized what worked. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that too. It's hard though, because yes, as a woman, we know that women go out there and they sell their bodies all the fucking time. That doesn't mean men should have the right to harm them, though. And like you said, there's this unspoken contract. I'm a prostitute. You're a fucking John. You're supposed to pay me. The same way, like you just mentioned, you go get a bucket of fucking chicken. KFC is expecting me to pay for that chicken.
Yeah, but if you say put all the chicken in the fucking bag and you void said contract,
you're going to jail. You're going to jail.
There's a price to pay.
Exactly. There are
Whether
repercussions.
it be you being in jail or you literally pulling out $10 and pens for this fucking chicken. At the end of the day, someone you're going to pay.
Somebody's going to pay some
I'm
shit.
so sorry. And whether the price may be.
And sometimes it's your life.
Sometimes it's your brains on this ground, B. I don't know what to tell you. The price is sometimes a little bit higher. You can't always judge.
You should have gave me my $40.
Bartering don't always work.
Period. And we're going to learn a little more about Mallory because he is a piece of dog shit. Now, his body was found covered with a piece of rug with his pockets turned inside out.
She robbed him.
If it were not for her confession and a detailed testimony, no one would have known what had really happened that night. It took 6 months for her to kill again. And after that, it seemed that she was just fucking hooked. She was murdering one victim after another with no signs of stopping.
Was it only man?
Now, her plan was to be, quote, a bounty hunter for rapists. Mm-hmm. A Volusia County deputy found his body several miles from his abandoned car. He had been shot multiple times. Now, this murder was debated a lot because Mallory was, in fact, a convicted rapist. According to the Supreme Court filing that I found, quote, records obtained from that institution reflect that from 1958 to 1962, Richard Charles Mallory, the victim in the instant action, was committed for treatment and observation on account of a criminal charge of assault with intent to rape. These records further reflect an 8-year of overall treatment under the institution's guise. Richard C. Mallory was originally confined in the Maryland Penitentiary for a period of 4 years on a charge of housebreaking with the intent to rape, which occurred in Anne Arundel County in Maryland. On December 2nd, after your birthday, 1957, Mallory had entered a plea of insanity. On January 30th, 1958, the court ordered that Mr. Mallory is examined. A mental examination at the time of Mr. Mallory's confinement found that he possessed an extremely strong sex urge along with a number of neurotic manifestations with especially obsessive compulsive elements. The diagnostic impression of Mr. Mallory was a personality pattern disturbance and schizoid personality. The examination,
but how old was he?
By the time of this shit,
by the time they did this examination,
this was in the 60s. This was in the 50s.
And he was killed in the 80s.
Yes.
So he was just out free, crazy as fuck.
And we're going to get there. So wait, where was I? So the examination, which was conducted by Dr. Harold M. Boslow at the request of the court and which led to his commitment, revealed that because of his emotional disturbance and poor control of sexual impulses, Mallory could present a danger to his environment in the future. While at Patuxent, which is the institution, Mr. Mallory initially exhibited argumentative behavior and engaged in a number of fights before adjusting to institutional life. Mr. Mallory was removed from his in-house prison job as a hospital clerk on August 22nd, 1960, because of his having made a molesting gesture towards the chart nurse with sexual intent. Mallory escaped from the institution on March 14, 1961. He stole a car to facilitate such an escape. At that time, it was observed of Mr. Mallory that he possessed strong sociopathic trends, which were very close to his service, and that his controls against them were weak and porous. Further witnesses, neither discovered nor presented by trial counsel, existed as to Mr. Mallory's, which included a penchant for topless bars, prostitution, and pornography. Kimberly Guy, a dancer at a 2001 Odyssey nude dancing establishment in Tampa, Florida, made statements in the past which suggested that in addition to having an affinity for prostitution and sex, Mr. Mallory was equally interested in masochistic sex and frequently traveled with a pair of handcuffs in his briefcase.
I know that's right.
What? Chastity Marcus, similarly a dancer in the adult entertainment industry, also made statements about Mr. Mallory's crippling obsession with sex, and she stated that Mallory would frequently exchange sexual favors for electronic equipment back in the shop.
Electronic equipment?
Yes.
Like what, bitch? What you want? A microphone? You want a karaoke machine? What electronic equipment?
You are not about to give me no, I'm not about to suck your dick for no stereo.
What do you want from me? What is
I got a stereo. I don't need one from you. Now, this was
awful.
Now, this was all a part of her argument of self-defense. And while Richard Mallory may have been a piece of absolute shit that raped Aileen, that doesn't really explain the subsequent murders. Now, it wasn't a thrill. Some have speculated that her murders were merely opportunistic, but the consistent pattern suggests that they were planned and executed deliberately. In her disturbed state, murder and robbery became a means of financial survival, a desperate way to get quick cash when she needed it, especially to impress Ty, because Ty wanted a better home. She wanted
Ty?
The girlfriend.
No, I mean, where? What is Ty doing?
Ty sitting in a motel somewhere.
While Aileen is out here
murdering
being tied
motherfuckers
up and shit and killing old niggas.
Yeah.
Where is Ty?
Now, she wanted a better home, more clothes, more beer, more luxuries. They had pets that they adopted. Now, in a sense,
why y'all need pets?
Exactly. In a sense, the abused became the abuser and the used became the user. And in her mind, her actions might have been justified by the decades she allowed men to use her. She probably saw it as a trade-off or a twisted form of self-care where she finally took what she wanted and looked at her own needs and desires as well as those of Ty. Now, she likely viewed it as purely an act of survival, not acknowledging that she was robbing others for her own survival, and it's selfish as fuck. But this is something she would constantly blame society for, because in her head, she's like, I never had a fucking fighting chance.
Yeah.
Quote, John Tanner, the state attorney in her case, said, she liked to be in control. In fact, these killings, as much as anything, were acts of ultimate control. And we've seen that in serial killing patterns in the past. She killed these men to bring about the ultimate control over their lives, which was to terminate it. Ty's involvement was always fucking strange. Aileen insisted that she acted alone, and it's likely that she did. But when she first told Ty about the murder, Ty said she didn't want to know about any of the details. She didn't want to be an accessory. She wanted plausible deniability. And from then on, it seems Ty avoided asking too many questions about where Aileen was getting all the cash and the cars, and she was just going along with it, even though she was dependent on everything she did. The mob wife effect. I call that the mob wife effect.
Ignorance is truly bliss.
You know, fucking Tony is sitting in the kitchen every day with 15 other Italian niggas talking about all types of shit, but you trying to act like you don't know he in the mob.
I thought you were really in the trash business. How could you think that? Why would you think that?
First of all, why does she sound like Edith Bunker?
Why did you really think I was in sanitation?
Archie.
I thought you were in the trash business.
I thought you were in the trash business.
No way you thought that was for real, ho.
Why you ain't ask me why I had all that blood on my clothes though?
I literally had a track of blood in this house in the kitchen. We ate breakfast near it. And you said, "Oh, that must be from me when I stepped on that snake." Okay.
Why you asked me the other night why the trunk smelled funny and why there were flies in the car and you
and now you want to act surprised. I done killed this nigga. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Give me my mink back. That's $50,000 alpaca. Hate bitches. I hate everybody.
Not $50,000 alpaca. This is the second time you mentioned my fucking alpaca. Okay, so even though, you know, all of that, she did all that shit, they eventually broke up. Duh. Now there may be some connection between Eileen's murder and Ty, but her murders and Ty, but who really the fuck knows?
Ty was too fucking lazy.
Whenever Ty, and I can't wait till you see Ty. Whenever Ty has something to do or spent time with other people, Aileen would go out and commit a murder.
I feel that.
Almost.
As a Sagittarius, I feel it.
It was almost as if she was acting in rebellion, or she could have used it as an opportunity to make quick cash while Ty was busy doing something else. Kind of like, oh, she gone. Let me go handle this real quick.
I got nothing else to do.
Yeah, and then like Ty would just come back and she would just have the shit that they need. Now
I
later,
love it.
What? Now later it became terribly clear that Ty didn't have the same feelings for Aileen and she was fucking using her. And Aileen would go on to kill 6 people. 5 more people.
Because of Ty?
Because of just survival. May 19th, 1990, David Spears, 47. Spears was a construction worker from Winter Garden, Florida. He was found naked, shot 6 times with a .22 caliber pistol along State Road 19 in Citrus County. Now, like Mallory, Spears had picked up Wuornos. She was hitchhiking, and his naked body was found first, and his vehicle was later found abandoned.
How is she killing these grown-ass men by herself?
Now, June 1st, 1990, a 40-year-old, a part-time rodeo worker, Charles Carskagan. He was murdered on May 31st, 1990. His body was discovered in Pasco County on June 6, 1990. He had been shot 9 times with a .22 caliber weapon. The body was wrapped in an electric blanket and was badly decomposed when it was found. Witnesses reported seeing Wuornos with Carskagan's car. And Wuornos had also pawned a gun that was later identified as belonging to him. Now, Peter Abrams Seams, he was a 65-year-old retired merchant seaman from Jupiter, Florida. He was leaving Jupiter, Florida for Arkansas in June 1990. On July 4th, 1990, his car was discovered in Orange Springs, Florida. Witnesses saw Moore and Wuornos abandoning the vehicle, and Wuornos' handprint was found on the interior door handle. Seams' body was never found. Troy Eugene Burris, a 50-year-old sausage salesman from Ocala, Florida, was reported missing on July 31st, 1990. His body was discovered on August 4th, 1990 in a wooded area along State Road 19 in Marion County, and he had been shot twice. September 11th, 1990, Charles Humphreys, a retired state security chief, private investigator, and former police officer from Florida, he was found shot 7 times in the head and in a torso in a remote area near a highway. Wuornos had claimed that Humphreys picked her up while she was hitchhiking, and she later admitted to killing him and stealing his car. Walter Gino Antonio, a 62-year-old trucker, security guard, and reserve police officer, was found dead November 19th, 1990. His nearly naked body was discovered near a remote logging road in Dixie County with 4 gunshot wounds. 5 days later, his car was located in Brevard County. Now, it would be
collecting the motherfucker like Pokemon.
Period. You got to catch them all. Now, it would be Peter Seam's death that would seal her fate. On July 4th, 1990, Aileen and Tyria. Okay, was Ty black or what? No, Tyria was white as fuck. Oh. She got into a car accident and she was in Seams's car. A witness described the 2 women to the police who left the scene, and the police found blonde hair in the car and a handprint. The MO was that it was the same. All the victims were white, middle-aged men from low to middle income backgrounds, and they were traveling along highways in Florida, and they were shot with a .22 caliber pistol. Now, at that time, investigators had never considered that a single woman would be responsible for the murders. They were exploring other possibilities, such as like a killer couple, a female accomplice working with a male serial killer. They didn't really think, right. You know what I mean? They didn't really think that this was one bitch.
She said they can't be doing this alone.
She can't be.
This is too much.
They were also thinking a series of crimes committed by different individuals. They were thinking, sexism.
They're like Son of Sam. Anyone.
They were thinking sexism. They weren't thinking about shit else.
This is a woman.
It's a woman. This is a woman. This is some lesbians.
It's a couple of lesbians.
This is some Lebanese. Okay, so that's a Golden Girls joke. Whatever. If you don't get it, fuck you. You should be watching Golden Girls. Now, when they looked into the palm print, it brought up Aileen Wuornos, who at the time was 5'4" and 137 goddamn pounds.
You niggas are weak. That's all I got to say after hearing the measurements. Her measurements are 23, 23, 24. And she taking you niggas down. You hear me? I got cats that way.
Okay, you know what? I'm done. Emmy's big ass is about 5'4".
Emmy is literally up for like unemployment as we speak, and he was union. Him and Aileen the same size.
Now, so of course when they trace her, they figure out this bitch got a rap sheet 1.5 miles long. They also soon realized that Aileen had stolen the victim's items and she had pawned them shits. So she was making money hand over fist. Now, the breakthrough in the investigation came when a search for some of the stolen items revealed a receipt for goods bought from Richard Mallory, one of the victims. This receipt, which still had Wuornos' thumbprint on it, matched the prints found at the crime scene and directly linked her to the murder. Now, Aileen had used several aliases, including this Susan Lynn Blavick, Cammie Marsh Green, and she was still using Lori Christine Gordy, who was her fucking aunt sister's name. Now, witnesses who saw 2 women driving, crashing, and abandoning a 1988 Pontiac Sunbird provided physical descriptions of the suspects. One of these descriptions matched the mugshots of Aileen fucking Wuornos. Quote, 2 women are being sought as possible suspects in the shooting deaths of 8 to 12 middle-aged men who were lured to their deaths on Florida highways. Suspect number 1 is a white female, 5'8" to 5'10", with blonde hair, who is 20 to 30 years old. She may have a heart tattoo on her upper arm. Suspect 2 is also a white female, 5'4" to 5'6", with a heavy build and short brown hair. She may be wearing a baseball cap. These women are armed and dangerous and may be our nation's first female serial killers. Investigators feel compelled to warn the public, particularly middle-aged white men traveling alone. Now,
as a man and you middle-aged, you in your prime. Imagine being in your prime.
Yeah, picking up hoes.
You being taken down by a 5'3", 120 pound
137
woman. How would you feel about yourself?
A lesbian.
Would you prefer to die right there? Or would it be better to go back and warn the others that Blanche Devereaux?
A lesbian.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that was
I'm
fucked up.
kind of living for this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Now, Ty and Arlene were living in a motel. At this point, they were pretty aware of the fact that they were wanted, and Ty was terrified. So she left town, pussy, got to Pennsylvania to stay with her sister. Aileen stayed in Florida. She tried to get rid of as much evidence as she could, including her gun. She threw that in the bay. On January 9th, 1991, Aileen was at a biker bar called The Last Resort. Well, goddamn. Irony. 2 undercover cops watched her for hours over a period of 3 days with the plan to arrest her for an outstanding warrant for a concealed weapons charge under the name Lori Gordy. On January 10th, 1991, they located Ty in Scranton, Pennsylvania. She had returned to Florida to avoid prosecution. And on January 14th, she set up a date with a gentleman. Aileen set up a date with a gentleman at a bar. When she exited the bar, 2 sheriffs were waiting for her. When Ty returned, she was granted immunity in exchange for trying to get Aileen to confess.
And how long Ty trifling ass been living with her now?
Good question.
Because bitch is giving conspiracy.
I would have to go all the way back. It's a lot.
It's been a long time that Ty been sitting her crusty.
Well, they were
ass
together for
around.
4 years.
They were together for 4 years, and she was around while Aileen was going around killing all these.
She was,
but she also claimed she didn't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why she didn't want to know.
You're gonna really
so
hate
that
Ty.
she can be immune.
I'm gonna just say this.
I hate Ty because I hate a lazy bitch.
So it's so fucked up. So Ty, she gets granted immunity in exchange for Aileen. She made several calls to Aileen to get her to confess. And the way she was talking, Aileen knew something was fuck up. And then finally, Ty threatened her by saying that she was going to kill herself. Quote, "If I have to confess everything to keep you from getting in trouble, I will, okay?" This is what Aileen said. Then Ty said, "Then do it now. Do it right now and get it over with."
Whatever.
On January 16th, 1991, Aileen did just fucking that. When she confessed, she pled that all men tried to rape her and it was self-defense. Aileen was interviewed for 4 hours. Investigators, presented evidence linking Aileen to the crimes, including fingerprints, witness testimonies, items in a storage unit that she had kept, items pawned by Aileen that belonged to the victims. This evidence, along with her confession, solidified the case against her. A day later, the Mallory murder confirmed her arrests for murder in the first degree. Now, Eileen's emotional state fluctuated during the the interrogation. She expressed aggravation, anger. She was frustrated as fuck, particularly towards the police and the legal system. And at times, she showed little remorse for her actions, and she maintained that she killed the men in self-defense. It wouldn't be until January 13th of the following year that Wuornos would go to trial, and her trial was an absolute fucking shit show. Aileen Wuornos' case was tried in Volusia County, Florida. She was represented at the trial by this woman by the name of Trisha Jenkins. She was the chief assistant public defender of the 5th Judicial Circuit. After the first trial, private attorney Steve Glazer took over her defense and arranged pleas. Now, Wuornos only stood trial once because she later entered a no contest or guilty plea to the subsequent murder charges. During her trial, experts found that Aileen had multiple personality disorder, including borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, which I think just makes her a flat out sociopath. This was likely stemming from her childhood trauma and her abandonment. Aileen also had deteriorating mental health that was possibly driven by prostitution, robbery, assault, and eventually serial murder. That could have led her to that. It's also probable that after experiencing rape and assault as a sex worker, that Aileen suffered from PTSD. She was also a severe alcoholic, and she only had an IQ of 81.
Jesus.
So typically prosecutors would not use a defendant's prior criminal records, patterns, or behaviors as evidence in trial. However, Florida's Williams rule allows for such evidence in certain cases to be considered. Now, this rule permits the use of previous acts to demonstrate motive, intent, modus operandi, knowledge, or lack of mistake, provided it is not misused to prove bad character. In Aileen Wuornos' case, Judge Uriel Bunky Blount Jr., hate that name.
I can tell by the way you just said that.
Like, what? Who came out of retirement, by the way, just to do this because it was high profile as fuck, permitted the application of the Williams Rule, which allowed her past, including 6 additional murders she was being tried for, to be presented as evidence. So her fucking past was presented as evidence. She also kept desperately trying to protect Tyree. Now, the tape confession helped solidify the fact that Aileen's story was inconsistent as fuck. It was inconsistent as fuck. And Tyree wasn't making it no goddamn better. Her attorney would try to keep her quiet, but Aileen would say, quote, "I took a life. I'm willing to give up my life because I killed people. I deserve to die. I'm a very kind person, but when I get drunk, I do stupid things. If you're a hooker and you get somebody who starts messing with you, then you get angry."
Aileen said this?
This is what Aileen fucking
She
said.
don't got no personality disorder. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's just sick of these niggas.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the court will agree with you. Aileen was talking entirely too fucking much, and they tried to suppress the original confession. Her attorneys were like, okay, look, the attorneys were like, Wuornos' relationship, quote, Wuornos' relationship with Moore has been exploited, to get an involuntary videotape confession out of her, which violated her rights to due process. Even though they acknowledged that she had been read her Miranda rights and had legal advice from a public defender, it was said that Moore's ability to put Wuornos in an emotionally vulnerable state caused her to say anything that would help to keep her partner free from culpability in the crimes, which also affected her understanding of her rights or the consequences that she was facing. You basically used Ty to get this woman to say a bunch of shit to keep Ty out of trouble. So that's what they were ultimately arguing. Now, Wuornos also admitted to law enforcement that she had given Ty conflicting stories about the events. She was basically like, I didn't tell her everything. In one version, Aileen claimed that she discovered a dead body hidden under a scrap of rug in the woods. In another version, she confessed to being the one who committed the murder. So Ty started singing to protect herself. Duh. Quote, "We were sitting on the floor watching TV and she just came out and said, 'I have something to tell you.' And I asked her what? And she said that she had shot and killed a man that day." The prosecutor asked, "Did you say anything when she told you?" She answered, "No, I didn't want to believe it. I was probably in awe." End quote. On January 27, 1992, after 2 hours of deliberation, Aileen was convicted of Mallory's murder with the help of Ty. She was guilty of all charges, including armed robbery. As we know, the defense tried to convince the courts that Aileen acted in self-defense, and due to Mallory's past and obvious mental health issues, it was likely that it was self-defense. But despite her attorney's advice, Aileen chose to testify at her trial. While a defendant has a constitutional right to not testify, meaning that the prosecution could not compel her to take the stand, once she did, any refusal to answer questions could be used against her in court and to the jury.
What a setup.
So during her testimony, Aileen reiterated her claim that it was self-defense. She kept just saying it was self-defense. But during her cross-examination, she became so fucking angry. Her attorneys frequently advised her not to respond to certain questions, and she invoked the Fifth fucking Amendment. Mm-hmm. Again, self-incrimination. This is a amendment that is your right against self-incrimination, but she pled the Fifth 25 times while on the stand. Yes. Aileen was the only witness in her defense. Now, the judge unfortunately disagreed and refused to allow the records to be admitted as evidence and denied her request to a retrial. She had denied, of course, self-defense. She had claimed self-defense. Aileen made a comment to the judge. She said, quote, "First of all, I'd like to say that I have been labeled as a serial killer, and I am no serial killer. I have been framed by law enforcement as a serial killer because of numerous men involved. But what I was a prostitute. And in my prostitution, I happened to deal with a lot of men, at least 250 a month. Jesus. And I ran into these men along the way in my prostitution. I do not feel I was not out there to hurt anyone. I had no intentions of hurting anyone. In my confessions, I stated that 9 times. I stated 37 times self-defense, 39 times that they raped or beat, and then began to rape and had intentions of killing. And what I did is what anybody else would do. I defended myself, which everybody has the right to defend themselves. And I had no intention of killing anyone. I would not do that. I am not that type of person. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that while I've been through these 2.5 weeks in the courtroom, I told you that I was raped, and that is what happened. And that is what happened with all cases that I'll be involved in and discussing. And these people did violently attack me. They did a violent attack on me, and I did what I had to do to protect myself. Now, I'd like to point out one other thing is that the law enforcement have framed me as a serial killer purposely for books and movies. Now, I want to add to this because that was an end quote. I want to add to this too, because there was a lot of sensationalism around Aileen Wuornos because she was a woman. Number one. Number two, obviously the Charlize Theron movie comes out later around her second trial in the appellate court when she was in the Court of Appeals. That came around later. She had documentaries in the early 90s during the first round. Then she had another documentary later after she was sentenced. There was a lot of people who were trying to take advantage of Aileen. That is for sure. The thing about Aileen Wuornos is that her whole life, people were taking advantage of her.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or form, whether it was her body or whatever. And everybody knew, from her mother to her grandparents to her uncle, brother, sister, aunt, to everybody that, and even Ty, they all knew that this girl was fucking mentally ill.
Yeah. And in some aspects, she didn't even sound mentally ill. She just sounded like she was.
But that's the borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
That's the problem when you can switch between being able to operate within society and also being able to show some level of like psychopathy, where it's like, oh, this bitch is a nut. Her biggest issue, and she even said this, when I drink, I fucking lose it. She was a raging alcoholic. One of the things that Aileen should have done is she should have put herself in an institution.
Yeah.
She should have got the help she needed.
I believe, had she gotten help, she probably would have killed herself.
Yeah.
Because once she would have come to terms with everything that she's been through, there's no way she would have been able to live.
To cope with it,
Especially after she realized that.
Without being on substances either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
which is wild.
Like it would have gotten worse because she wasn't on drugs. She was just an alcoholic.
Which was crazy because she was selling herself when she was a kid for drugs, but they didn't say what drugs. Like, she smoked weed. So maybe they were just implying that. But I didn't read anywhere where she was on heroin, where she was doing cocaine, where she was smoking crack.
I didn't even hear anything about hallucinations.
No.
Like, if she were also the whole schizophrenia thing.
Yeah.
I'm not believing in schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
Because I watched that documentary on Netflix about the whole family of schizophrenia.
Oh, yeah, the kids.
And I got curious as to why I only hear about schizophrenic men.
Yeah.
They say women don't really get schizophrenia.
Yep.
Because of whatever hormones that prevent schizophrenia from occurring.
Yeah.
Also, the male brain is still developing by the age of 20.
Yeah.
Which is when people realize that they're schizophrenic.
Yeah, for sure.
There's too many mental disabilities going on.
Yeah.
There's too many thoughts going on.
Yeah.
In my mind, from what I've heard about schizophrenia in general, around every time period, whether it be the fucking 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it all sounds the same.
Yeah.
The shit that Aileen was dealing with does not sound like schizophrenia to me.
It's just
it genuinely sounds like
bipolar, borderline.
Bipolar. Yeah. Also, extreme trauma.
Yeah.
If she
PTSD.
PTSD for sure. Like, And they say schizophrenia is stemmed from trauma.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she wasn't schizophrenic because of how much trauma she dealt
for
with.
sure.
At the end of the day,
and not to mention her dad was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was a war vet. And that's how most men develop schizophrenia, through the military.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just like, first of all, she came from a terrible family.
Period. Mother who didn't want it at all. Which, by the way, she was a breech birth. She came out backwards.
Well, that explains a lot, too.
Yeah.
She was damn near choked by the cord when she came
probably,
out. Which, lack of oxygen, which mental brain not fully developed.
Yep.
So she had, honestly, she was damned from birth.
She was damned. She was doomed. And which is crazy, too, because then she kept losing people.
She lost people.
She had a fantastic relationship with her grandmother, apparently.
Gone. Anyone that she had a decent relationship with, gone.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, how could the court see her as out of her mind?
Yeah.
As opposed to just seeing her as the person that doesn't know how to grieve.
Well, because I think, and you'll see when we get to the end, I think the bigger issue was the fact that by the time Aileen did all of this, she was so deeply rooted in her mental illness that she couldn't pretend to be anything else. Because this is the first trial. By the end of the second trial, Aileen's health had declined so... I can't wait for you to see pictures of this woman.
I'm not surprised her health declined.
Her health declined so quickly that you could see it in her eyes. She had the dark, they call it, well, I don't want to call them senpaku eyes because I just learned about senpaku eyes, which is a Japanese idea of like yin versus yang in the eyes. People who have an exposure to it's called the three whites. I think that's what senpaku means, is three whites. But basically it's like when you look at the pupil, if you look into somebody's eyes and you see the white above is exposed or the white under is exposed, I think above is yin, and that means trauma, and below is yang, and that means they are likely to be dangerous.
Yikes.
Billie Eilish is popular for her senpaku eyes. Betty Davis. There are a lot of celebrities who have senpaku eyes, and we're not talking about people who look down and look up because that's naturally going to happen. We're talking about people who you look straight at, and you can see the white above and the white below. Yikes. So you can look, that's like Japanese face reading lore, but ultimately, if you look at pictures of Aileen Wuornos, as her mental health really started to decline. And also when she started to come to grips with the fact that she's like, I am fucked up. Yeah. My life is fucked up and I just want to die. The more she started to get to the point where she no longer wanted to live, to me, the more deep and dark her eyes got.
Probably.
Yeah. So the penalty phase for Aileen Wuornos began January 28, 1992. By January 31st, 1992, Aileen was sentenced to 10 years for armed robbery plus death by electrocution.
Yikes.
The state expert psychologist, Dr. Bernard, testified that Aileen Wuornos had both borderline personality disorder, like I mentioned before, antisocial personality disorder. And while he concurred with other experts that Aileen experienced impaired capacity and mental disturbance at the time of the crime, he concluded that these impairments were not substantial and disturbances were not extreme. He also acknowledged the presence of non-statutory mitigating factors, such as Warren, why do I call that woman Warren? Aileen's mental health issues, alcoholism, disturbances, and genetic or environmental deficits. Now, in response to the introduction of the evidence regarding Aileen, they talked about like her difficult childhood, her upbringing. The state called in 2 witnesses. Who were the fucking witnesses? Lori and fucking Barry, 2 motherfuckers that didn't even like her. Her biological uncle brother and her aunt sister. Barry testified that their grandfather was a strict figure who laid down rules and was someone they looked up to. Although Barry never witnessed his father physically beat Aileen, he mentioned that she was sometimes spanked and the discipline became stricter when she was around 10 years old. He also testified about Aileen's biological father who committed suicide in prison while serving time for rape and kidnapping, describing him as abusive and the quote criminal type. Barry and Lori, neither one of them obviously liked Aileen. which is to me, it's like they're the worst witnesses of her character, in my opinion. The jury recommended the death sentence by a vote of 12 to fucking 0. All 12 jurors.
How are so strict?
Concluding that 5 aggravating circumstances and 1 mitigating factor. The 5 circumstances were: she had previous felony convictions involving the threat of violence, which she did.
She's a prostitute.
Her murders were committed during the commission of robbery. The murders were committed in order to avoid arrest, because that is also true. Murder was heinous, atrocious, and cruel. She shot them. Murder was cold, calculated, and premeditated. She didn't give a fuck, and she was kind of planning on killing them. So they were like, yeah, she should probably not live. Now, the trial jury found 1 mitigating circumstance. The only mitigating circumstance was the fact that she had borderline personality disorder. Now, later down the line, they would try to use this. They would try to appeal this, because they're like, any other person with mental illness, that would be a big factor. Like, that would be a big factor on whether or not you would actually put them to death. Mm-hmm. Now, there are people that have served life in mental institutions. Ed Gein. I did an episode this season on Ed Gein, who Norman Bates' character in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The motherfucker was like pulling up bodies and he killed a couple of people, but he was like digging up bodies and making furniture and shit out of them. They knew that ultimately he was never going to be okay, and they put him in a mental institution.
Well, when you make furniture out of people,
he made lampshades and shit, and made belts out of nipples and shit. This motherfucker was fucked up. Mm-hmm. But with her, there was so much premeditation, and there was so much cover up. And then there were these moments of her just obviously, like you're saying, appearing well. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. So the judge found the following non-statutory mitigators, which was that she suffered from the personality disorders. She was physically abused as a child. Her natural father and grandfather committed suicide, and her grandmother died an alcoholic. Her mother abandoned her as an infant. So they're trying to factor all of these into why this woman would end up with these issues. Now, for some reason, Aileen was adopted by a woman in 1991, grown as fuck, adopted by this woman by the name of Arlene Prale. She was apparently like this Christian woman. They had been writing letters and shit to each other, and she was just like, I like Aileen, I want to help Aileen, and she adopted her. I don't know why. The shit was weird. But she tried pleading for mercy, stating that she never really had a chance to get treatment.
Are you paying attention to the time?
Yeah, I am. I'm looking. Okay. I got about 30 minutes. Now, at that time, Aileen Wuornos had little support and trusted Arlene with her life. She hired Steve Glazer, who was nicknamed Dr. Fucking Legal. Ugh. He was a fucking TV attorney.
Gross.
And on March 31st, 1991, he was named her attorney. Now, within minutes, Glazer stood before the judge to file a motion for Aileen's no contest plea, which we talked about earlier, which took everyone by fucking surprise. A no contest plea is basically you saying that you're fucking guilty in court, meaning that Aileen was accepting the maximum penalties for murder of Charles Humphreys and Troy Burress for Marion County, David Spears for Citrus County. Now, Judge Sawaya explained to her that without a plea deal, she would face the death penalty in each additional case. And on March 31st, 1992, she pled no contest. Okay. Now, additionally, I just want to add this as a note that Rag Singhal, who later became a U.S. district judge, served as one of her defense attorneys during the trial. And Aileen had a very complex and confusing fucking legal journey. She had many attorneys in many different stages of her trial. This case was highly just fucked up, murky, over sensationalized. It was just a mess. Anyway, the relationship between Aileen and Aileen and Prale didn't last. Wuornos began to suspect that Prale, her adopted mother, was only interested in publicity and money. And in an interview with Nick Broomfield, Aileen claimed that Prale and Glazer had suggested ways for her to kill herself in prison. She also suspected that they advised her to enter the no contest plea because Glazer lacked the experience to handle a high-profile murder trial. Motherfucking Dr. Legal was a TV doctor who wanted to just be famous. That was the only reason why he took that case. And him and her quote unquote adopted mother were trying to convince Aileen to commit suicide in prison.
Yikes.
So Glazer's a piece of shit, and so is Arlene. Glazer actually lacked the experience required to be even a part of a high profile murder trial, especially multiple murder. By June 1992, feeling betrayed by Aileen pled guilty to the murder of Charles Carscadden, and she received her 5th death sentence.
Jesus.
In February 1993, she again pleaded guilty, this time to the murder of Walter Antonio, and was sentenced to another death sentence.
Yeah.
How did you kill me 6 fucking times? She even says it. If you watch the documentary, I'll send you the link to the documentary. The link will be in the show notes too. When you watch the documentary, she's like, how many times can you fucking kill me?
Like, how do you sentence a person to death more than once? Yeah.
So now this is interesting. So again, during the court appearance, Aileen maintained her claim that Richard Mallory had raped her, but asserted that the other victims did not. She finally was like, they did it. In a disjointed statement, she said, quote, I want to confess to you that Richard Mallory did violently rape me, as I've told you, but these others did not. They only began to start to. On May 15, 1993, Judge Thomas Sawaya imposed 3 additional death sentences. So Aileen had 6 death sentences in total. No charges were brought against her for the murder of Peter Sims, even though she confessed they couldn't find his body. No body, no face, no case. Now, an angry Wuornos shouted, sons of bitches, I was raped. I hope you get raped. Scumbags of America. Now, this fucked up the jurors, I mean, because, come on.
Yeah.
On November 16th, 1994, the Supreme Court of Florida affirmed that Aileen's conviction, they confirmed her conviction and her sentence. Wuornos was, she filed a petition of writ in the rent certiorari, I hate Latin, in United States Supreme Court, which was denied on April 17, 1995. And during the extensive post-conviction period from 1994 until 2002, Wuornos argued her original trial counsel provided an ineffective representation. She did have ineffective representation because she had a shitty fucking attorney. All of of Aileen's claims were evaluated and rejected by the state and federal appellate courts. Aileen was incarcerated at the Florida Department of Corrections in Broward Correctional Institution, then transferred to Florida State Prison. Her subsequent appeals were denied. In 2001, she filed a petition with the Florida Supreme Court to dismiss legal counsel and terminate any pending appeals. Her mind was slipping deeper into madness, though. She was really losing it. And in 2002, Wuornos began accusing the prison staff of contaminating her food. She was saying they were putting dirt and spit and pee in it.
They probably really were.
They probably were. She claimed to have overheard conversations among prison personnel plotting to drive her to suicide before her execution and expressing a desire to rape her beforehand. She complained about the strip searches. She complained about being handcuffed too tight. She complained about people kicking her doors and window checks and low water pressure. She was just complaining. But what she really just wanted was for somebody to actually treat her like she was fucking human before she was executed.
Well, yeah.
On September 30th, 2002, Jeb Bush granted a stay of execution. He ordered a mental examination to determine whether or not Aileen was competent to be executed because Florida law mandated that an inmate cannot be executed unless she understands that she's about to be fucking executed. Yeah. An examination by 3 psychiatrists appointed by the state concluded that Wuornos was competent.
Cool.
And the stay was lifted. Then on October 9, 2002, she declined a last meal. She had coffee instead. Her last words were, yes, I would just like to say, I'm sailing with a rock and I'll be back, like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie. It was July 4th, but I think she was confused. Big mothership and I'll be back. I'll be back. On October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection. They had changed they realized electrocution, because originally they had slated her in the 90s for electrocution, but they had shifted from electrocution to the lethal injection. She was executed in Florida State Prison. She died at 9:47 a.m. She was the second woman in Florida and the 10th in the United States to be executed since 1976. United States Supreme Court decision to restore capital punishment.
Whatever.
And that is the story of Aileen Wuornos.
Fucking sad.
Yeah.
Fucking sad.
Charlize Theron. Excuse me. Charlize Theron played the fuck out of that movie.
I believe it, because she be playing the fuck out of them Dior commercials.
She do, because I'm like, j'adore Dior. I'm like, fuck
and
you.
I'm like, ah!
You know, Charlize Theron is the one of the few that makes me like question my sexuality. Mm-hmm. But I will say that she won an Oscar, a Golden Globe, a SAG Award, a Critics' Choice Award. I actually own Monster. Christina Ricci played Ty. Ty's name wasn't actually used in the movie. They called her something else because Ty wouldn't really cooperate with the movie. I think she's still alive. I didn't really look into her.
She shouldn't be.
I don't really fucking care. I mean, I know that I've done episodes where I have justified a lot of people's behavior. Aileen Wuornos upsets me and has always upset me since the very first time I saw Monster and I was interested in Aileen Wuornos, because when it comes to this level of mental illness, this lack of nurture, when it comes to people not being cared for, appreciated, respected, we as a society needs to understand that leads to certain behaviors. And I'm not saying that she didn't deserve to be in jail. I'm just saying that I don't particularly believe that she should have been killed.
We recognize those behaviors, but in men.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Those behaviors are recognized, except for rape.
Yeah, rape
because
is
no
different.
one truly understands rape. Because if you understand rape, then that means that you're
a sick bitch.
You're a sick bitch, mostly because you've been through it.
Yeah, that's true.
And you've lived it.
Yeah.
Or you've known someone that's lived it.
That's
and if
true.
you understand someone that's been raped, then you shaking too many tables.
Yeah.
Because you understand too much trauma that's been set back for so long. Too many people have been raped.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, there's too many motherfuckers in politics that go around just raping people. And that don't even mean, the black and white version.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. There is a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So, of course, everyone wants to turn a blind eye and act like they know nothing about it. That's just...
Because everybody's a rapist.
Because everyone's fucking sick.
They're like, wait a minute now. He raped you. I mean, but you also... I think if we consider the time period, too, in the 90s, where people had this very, very old, antiquated look of sex work, even though a lot of these judges and attorneys and politicians also order prostitutes. I think this skew perspective of sex work and how women end up in sex work is a lot of the reason why it's very easy to dehumanize them.
Yeah.
Eileen's biggest issue, I think she would have got away with Mallory. Mm-hmm. I honestly do. I think she would have got away with Mallory had she stopped at Mallory. Yeah. But what she started to do, and because her brain's fucked up, she started to realize that, oh shit, just like every other serial killer, just like every other spree killer, just like every other thrill killer, they realize, oh shit, that worked.
Also, there's not just one.
No.
So I have to kill several.
I have to kill all of them. It's like Carl Panzram. Fuck them, kill them all.
Yeah, once you get
a taste of blood
through it that first time, you realize, quote unquote,
it ain't
not
that bad. Yeah.
Or I got away with it this time, I can get away with it next time. If she really had whatever disorders they kept throwing at her brain, that's what really pissed me off.
Yeah.
I understand that there was some mental illness, mostly because of her upbringing. But at the end of the day, all of the shit that they chose to diagnose her with, it was ultimately, her issue was men. Yeah. Her issue was people. Yeah. She was... Because she loved Ty. Would never thought about killing her. So she knew the emotion. Yeah. She's not a fucking idiot. Yeah. She wasn't an idiot. Mm-hmm. And she was sick, but that's because that's how she was brought up. Yeah. when you raise your kids and you're a sick individual, what do you expect them to be? You expect them to be normal?
They're not going to be upstanding citizens. That's for goddamn sure.
Of course she's going to be a prostitute. What else does she know?
Yeah.
She was raped several times as a kid even.
Yeah.
So, like, of course she's overly sexualized. And of course she doesn't know what else anything outside of sex is. Yeah. Because her family failed her from the fucking beginning.
And at a very young age, she was using sex in exchange for things. Food, a place to stay, cigarettes. So where did she
learn that shit from?
Yeah.
Learning how to have sex in trade for items is some shit that you learn. Yeah. You don't just read that in a fucking Pocahontas book. Yeah. It's not like some shit you even see on Discovery Channel. It's something that's around you. Yeah. You know, so she learned that from somewhere. And I think that's what really pisses me off when it comes to mental illness. Yeah. We need to remember that most mental illness behavior, most people that are mentally ill, it's from their behavior. Yeah. It's from learned behavior. Yeah. The parents are sick. The family's sick. Whatever the fuck it may be. Yeah. Niggas are sick. Yeah. And I think that it pisses me off more that we act more harshly towards women. Yeah. Even though women are the ones that like deal with so much other shit. We're more harsh towards women than we are towards men. Because had this been fucking Mallory, that, first of all, Mallory's the one that fucking handcuffed her to a steering wheel to begin with. Yeah. And we let that go. Yeah. At the end of the day, it was all about the fact that Aileen was going around killing men.
Yeah, and robbing them.
And robbing men. Yeah. Damn the fact that she was raped. Yeah. On several occasions. Yeah. And the fact that she grew up destined to fail.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just all about the fact that she was quote unquote schizophrenic and she had a borderline personality disorder. And she didn't know what love was when she had people around her that she genuinely trusted, but other people, why would she trust
them? And then, too, the betrayal over and over and over again. Yeah. Because even in the book that I read, when they kept talking about, like, how she would refer to her son, that's something she would have loved, right? Yeah. Or even when she talked about Ty, that's somebody she loved, but, I mean, her son was taken away from her. Yeah. So she didn't even have a choice in that matter. Ty betrayed her. She was used yet again. You know, and it's kind of just like you keep putting yourself, every time she feels love, she realized that it doesn't work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like every time she was in love with her grandmother, who she had this strong relationship with, and she dies.
Yeah, at a young age at that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like she just wasn't destined to feel love.
Yeah.
Which sucks. But she was also only destined to feel anger.
And pain.
And then to be killed by lethal injection. Yeah. By the court.
Which at that point she welcomed. Yeah. I mean, she welcomed it because when you experience that much trauma, what am I doing this for? Oh my God, I got a whole system that's willing to take me out. I don't even have to have the bravery to do it myself.
Yeah. And they're offering a meal, but I got it in me to say no.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just good. Just give me a coffee.
I want to be awake for this. Yeah. That's what that coffee was saying. I want to be awake for this.
I mean, energized.
I need energy. I'm welcoming my death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means even when she died, she wasn't scared of these niggas.
No.
Bravo, I say.
I will say that Aileen to me deserved a little more compassion than she received. She was fucked up because even when you hear her story, I think of her as a kid. I don't think of her as a grown ass woman who had these experiences. She never grew up because there was never an opportunity to be even a child. So
who raised her? Yeah. No one raised her.
Nobody raised her. So yeah. Yep. Well, so that's the Damsel of Death.
You needed something sad to think about.
Yeah.
There you go. Think about how you are loved.
Yep.
And
when you're thinking about how fucked up your life is and how you don't want to wake up and go to work.
Think about Aileen. People in the 60s, 70s, and 80s were kicked in the ribs, introduced to AIDS, and are dead.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a woman, just know that if someone tells you you're schizophrenic, you're probably not. Because these men are nuts.
Well, okay. And also, like, you know, we need to just take care of ourselves.
Truly.
And unfortunately, she was never taken care of or given the tools to take care of herself. I mean, I also think about her brother. I'm like, her brother passed away when he was 21. How fucked up would he have possibly been had he lived beyond that?
Imagine him trying to handle the stress of knowing that his sister is dealing with this shit.
Yeah.
But even also what he could have gone through.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Past the age of 21.
Or what they possibly would have gone through together.
Or what they would have done together.
Yeah.
Because there was clearly already some ancestors.
Oh, for sure. There was something funky going on there. So that's for sure. And I think even by the time this all happened, she was trying to clear up her background. I think in the beginning, she was trying to clear up her background and make it seem like her life was better than it was because she wanted people to believe that she wasn't as fucked up as she was coming off as. And I think that was the same thing that applied when they, you know, he never spanked us. And excuse me, there were sources that were like, her granddad used to beat the shit out of her. And then there were sources like, he never beat her. Obviously the aunt and uncle said that. But I also feel like the brother and the relationship with the brother could have possibly been embellished because in her mind, she didn't want to think that the only person she had left was doing anything wrong to her. She wanted to make it seem like she had connections to someone. Yeah. I mean, there's a sad part too, where, in the movie, I think, and I didn't rewatch the movie for this because that's one of those movies I've seen a couple of times and I really don't need to watch anymore. But, even though I own it, but that's just the type of shit that I do. Charlize Theron's character, I think there's a moment in the movie where she doesn't do holidays. She doesn't like Christmases and shit because she's never really had a family to share them with. But when I read about Aileen, she said, sure, I didn't have Christmases to share people with, but I like Christmas. You know, it was just like she had these aspects of her personality where it was just like, damn, Aileen, you would have been all right if
she was still a person.
if you had just been dealt a better hand. And to me, I just couldn't help but thinking as I was researching this, how many other Aileens there are.
There's a lot.
And black, and we didn't just talk about white women either.
No,
we're talking
I'm
about
turning into one of them because I can tell you what, you motherfuckers are driving me nuts.
Bye. So this was episode 17.
Nuts.
This was interesting.
Drive me crazy.
Hope you learned something.
I keep edibles in my purse.
Okay.
Because people are driving me so crazy. I would just like to say that. I've also just like, y'all gotta go.
I hope you learned something. I will see you all in a couple of weeks. I have plans. You know, usually I don't have plans when it comes to this podcast, but I think I know what my...
Oh, I thought you meant in life.
Oh, wait. Well, yeah, I have those too, but I think... I think I know what my next 3 episodes are, and I know what my first 2 of the next season are, so I am ahead of the curve. But nah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Kirrah, for coming back. You're always a joy.
Meow.
And I'll be around. We'll be around. Same time.
I won't be, child.
All right.
You can't find me easily.
Same time, same place.
I say that as I go nowhere. I be out shit. I do not.
Same time, same place, every other Thursday. Follow me on all the social medias. And take care of yourself and others.
Or don't.
Peace.
Because it don't really matter.
Bye.